Hey, what's up, Casey?
Hey, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. It's Friday. Excited for the weekend.
Awesome. Well, thanks for making the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, of
I just
course.
wanted to have a follow-up to our conversation last week. We spoke for, 20, 30 minutes or so, and I think coming from, similar backgrounds and having, fairly similar tracks into, real estate and raising money, just wanted to hear more about your story and kind of who you're marketing to and how all that's going. So if you can, just give me a brief summary of like your background and how you got started.
Yeah, for sure. I work in tech. I work in a full-time job. And so the way I got started in real estate is I was working at a startup. I had moved from a big company, another big tech company, to a startup because I wanted to experience startup life. And it was during COVID, and I knew that the company was kind of running out of money, and I knew a layoff was imminent. And so I was like, oh my God, this is like my income is a single point of failure, right? If I lose my job, then I don't have the income, right? And then the layoff did come, and I remember someone saying to me, well, I'm surprised that you didn't get cut. And I was 3 months in. So like those were like the same fears that I was having too. Like I haven't been able to prove my value yet, all of these things. And so I was like, oh my God, I need to find another way to have additional income. And so that's how I got started in the world of real estate. I've since moved W-2 jobs back to another big tech company, and I've tried long-term rentals, I've tried short-term rentals or Airbnbs, but ultimately I feel like it was just taking up too much of my time in terms of like ROI on my time while still having a full-time job. So then I got started and I found out what lending was, and I got started in the world of lending. And I was like, oh my God, the ROI for my time is insane. This is amazing. This is lovely. The returns are comparable to short-term rentals, but I don't have to manage guests. I don't have to manage like finding somebody to fix toilets. Like this is amazing. And so I've been doing that for about a year now, and now I feel comfortable, where I'm in a place where I can start raising capital to fund deals for borrowers that I know, like, and trust. And like, I've been through a few cycles with them where I know that they'll give the money back, right? Even if, bumps in the road happen. So now I'm in the process of raising capital, and my main audience that I'm raising capital for is people like me, so people who work in big tech, because I feel like that's the audience that I can help the most is like me 3, 4, 5 years ago, right? So the person looking for that additional income on the side of their W-2. So I'm
Yeah.
really
So
focusing on that
somebody
right
who's
now.
a high income earner, but who happens to be working, 70 hours a week, whatever it may be,
Exactly.
and not have the bandwidth to go out and find these opportunities themselves, but potentially looking for an alternative to the stock market or their company contribution plan or whatever it may be.
Exactly. Like if you're over leveraged in one company stock, like I have a bajillion of Amazon stock, and while that's all good, lovely, and amazing, it's not diversified, right? So it's the folks that are looking to diversify their investments through real estate, and I'm more than happy to do that legwork to connect them to the borrower and kind of work them through that whole lending process.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, you have this, your personal track record that probably adds some validity to, when you go out and speak to your coworkers.
Yeah.
How much time or how many iterations did you need to go through on your own before you felt comfortable going out and talking to, the
Yeah.
people who sit in the same pods as you or,
Yeah.
whatever it may be? Because I think there's a lot on the line there. You're putting, your name, you know, your name
It's
out there,
scary.
your
Yeah.
reputation, and then if something goes south, you're
It's on
sitting
me.
next to that person the next day.
Yeah, exactly. It's very scary. And I feel like I feel like it became twofold, right? Like it's the iterations of finding that right borrower. And I've tried out many different borrowers, many different loan types. There's a few I wouldn't do again. So every single loan was like a massive lessons learned. So within this year, I've been playing with different borrowers, and trying to figure out who I liked working with. The definition of good communication varies amongst different people. So trying to find out like where our communication is aligned with a different borrower was a lot. So I think finding the right person was one piece, and then the second piece is like kind of like mindset, right? Like I have always been afraid to talk about what I'm doing within the world of real estate, mainly due to fear of judgment of others. And now I'm kind of like leaning into this fear and hopefully, posting about it online and talking to coworkers. And it's a journey that I'm navigating through right now.
Yeah. So what does that look like for you when, you're obviously comfortable with your process, you've vetted borrowers, you know how to communicate with them, you know what it would be like moving forward with them or bringing other capital partners in. How are you how are you communicating that to your coworkers or people in your world? Is it, are you telling them about the benefits of, lending? Are you telling stories? Are you what is that? Like how do you get in with them on this subject without sounding, like you're
Salesy,
yeah, like
pushy.
you're
Yeah.
doing a sales pitch?
Yeah, that's a really good question because I mean, I think anybody who comes off too salesy, I mean, even if somebody comes off too salesy, I'm like, whoa, like, no, thank you. Even if it's something that I want to buy, right?
Yeah.
So, to me, it's more of just like those organic conversations where, perhaps you're in a meeting one day or you're sitting next to somebody and they're like, oh, like, I'm really stressed out today, or hey, like, people joke about not loving their W-2 life. And so it's like, oh, well, here's what I do on the side to like kind of counterbalance the W-2 versus this like side hustle that I've got going on.
Mhm.
And ultimately it's through stories of here's what's worked for me and here's what I like doing. And I think that's resonated well with folks without sounding too pitchy because it is I'm just telling my stories and no one can contest that, right? So that's what's been working for me.
Yeah, I've had similar situations where I never want to come out and just talk about it and say, hey,
Yeah.
this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm raising money for. This is how much I need. It's more just talking about past projects and say, if someone's like,
Yeah.
hey, I did X, Y, and Z last weekend, I'd be like, cool, I was out, with a borrower or on a property that we
Yeah.
own, whatever it may be, and just leave it at that. And then a
Exactly.
week
Yeah.
will pass, 2 weeks pass, and then it's, hey, tell me more about, that property you were just chatting about, that motel or that, multifamily that you're building. And that's for me how it's gotten traction. It's never pushing any one thing. It's just
Yeah.
talking about personal experience.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like there's so many different ways out there to invest your money within the world of real estate that, if I share my experience and that doesn't align with somebody's goals, then I'm not going to push that, right? Like then I'll try and find somebody that I know, like, and trust and be like, well, you can work with this person or hey, you can talk about, if you're interested in RV parks, like go talk to this person. But like I'm not going to risk breaking a relationship with somebody just by pushing my method of investment. Like that's just not worth it. Nor is it worth it to raise capital and then put it with somebody who isn't going to return the funds. Like that's going to ruin the relationship. I see these people at work, at home, like if it's family, like in that setting, like that's just too risky for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So you had all of these concerns about talking about what you were doing,
Yeah.
out of fear of judgment because
Yeah.
you're working your job and maybe you should only be working at your job in
Yeah.
the eyes of others. Was that unfounded? Like were people, when you talk to them, are they open about it? Are they, saying, "Oh, that's fantastic. How do I get involved?" Or do you still have people kind of giving you the side eye, being like, "What the heck is she talking about?"
I feel like some people, it's a little unfounded, but the majority of folks are like, tell us more about what you're doing. Like, this is so cool. Like, even if they don't want to invest, it's let me watch you on your journey. And
Mhm.
so I feel like it was mainly rooted in fear and quite frankly, a bit unfounded. I've had a few folks say to me, like, well, you already make plenty of money with your W-2. Why would you want to make more money? Like, when is it good enough, right? But I don't think it's about that, right? It's about just like personal growth and Like your income is tied to the value that you bring. And so that to me is more of what it's about. It's like, one, I'd like to leave my W-2 one day. And then two, I really want to bring value to like the folks that I'm connecting with.
Yeah, and it's also you're raising money for projects and giving people an alternative investment opportunity, right? And
Yeah.
so even though someone may look at you and say you make, ungodly amounts of money or whatever it is,
Yeah.
the person you're raising from might not be. And they're towards the end
Exactly.
of their career at Amazon or wherever it may be,
Yeah.
and they're looking for that next step and how to get involved in something else. So it's
Yeah,
it's not
totally.
just about you.
Yeah, it's about everybody within the whole process. It's about the borrower. It's about like who I'm connecting. Like I truly believe it is an opportunity to invest, a really good opportunity to invest money. If I didn't, I wouldn't be pitching it, right? And so like if I knew about these opportunities before a few years ago, I probably wouldn't have bought short-term rentals. I mean, the tax benefits are amazing, but they take a lot of work. And so the yeah, if you don't believe in your product, then it's hard to sell.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you still
Yeah.
own those properties or did you get rid of them?
Yeah, we still own them, but we are looking to exit them.
Okay. And where are those?
Two are in Arizona, and then one is in West Virginia, and then we manage for somebody else also in Arizona. So,
Uh,
yeah,
so
I had a thought of one time of like, oh, we have these short-term rentals, let's build out a short-term rental management company. And then we managed for one other person, and we still manage for that person, but it was just like this is not the life that we're trying to build. Like me and my husband, like to be on call 24/7
yep.
is not that's not the goal state. So we
Yeah.
needed to pivot.
Nice.
Yeah.
And so is he fully on board with what you're doing now? Is
Yeah.
it a joint family effort?
It's just me. We've learned that our skills are very conflicting, and so sometimes we do butt heads. So this is like my world that I'm totally in, and then he is focusing on like property acquisition and burring properties.
Okay.
So they will cross over at some point, but right now they're a little bit separate.
Yeah, you're sharpening your skills in
Yeah,
separate areas
exactly.
so you can come together at some point in the future.
Exactly. Divide and conquer.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So the primary group that you're looking at is high income W-2s, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Are you marketing anywhere else? Um, Friends and family that aren't in those buckets,
Yeah.
or I'm curious, like, what's the difference in mindset between like a W-2 in Silicon Valley versus somebody else? Like what are the types of questions that are you fielding from your coworkers or people that, are in that general atmosphere as
Yeah.
opposed to somebody outside of that?
Yeah, I'm not targeting necessarily friends and family, but if they want to invest after hearing the opportunity, then I'm more than welcome to inviting them in. But I feel like ultimately the main difference is the type of questions that they ask and the type of language that I use when I'm talking about the opportunity. Like I'm not going to say a lot of times I compare the borrowers that I work with to like a blue chip stock because I find them very safe. Now,
Mhm.
if you don't work in tech, maybe you don't know exactly what a blue chip stock is, and that would like just confuse you. And you're like, Kasey, what the heck are you talking about? So, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like it's just the language that I need to tailor to the different audience. But the
Yeah.
questions are more or less the same. It's about security. How is my money safe? It's about the borrower. Like, do they have experience? And all that kind of stuff. But the questions are more or less the same. It's just the language I use to communicate the information.
Yeah, same general framework, just um, different different language based on, I don't want to say education, but
Yeah,
skill set
experience.
and
Yeah.
experience. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
Yeah.
And it's been successful.
Yeah, it's been successful so far. I would say it's like slow moving. I'm just starting this process. And I've had quite a few folks reach out from like my W-2 world of like, hey, this is a really cool opportunity. So the ball is rolling and I'm excited to see where it goes because I could see this taking off fairly quickly. So I'm
Awesome.
pretty pumped.
Cool.
Yeah.
And so what, I mean, what does that look like? You're, what are we, June of 25 right now.
Yeah.
Um, Next 6 months, like, how are you, what are your goals? How are you streamlining your processes? And what does January 1 of next year look like?
Yeah, that's a good question. So my goal for end of year is to raise 1 million.
Okay.
Um, and so what happens in January once I hit that point, I feel like I'll be in a very different place and I'll still work with the same borrowers. But what happens in terms of my W-2, we'll see how that goes. But so far, that's my goal and we'll see if I hit it. But I'm think I will.
Nice. And are
Yeah.
you using any specific tools, or I mean, so you can go out there and, just grind away and talk to as many people as possible, but has is anything streamlining your process to help get there? Or once you kind of hit that milestone of, hey, I've raised $1 million in the last 6 months, now I need to put better processes in place, or switch my approach. I mean, have you thought about that at all?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I have a mentor and I'm shadowing them I think on Monday of like they manage 40 million in loans and so I'm gonna try and soak up as much information as possible of like from the system side of things, also the
Mhm.
capital raising side of things, but systematically like how do they manage their business? And that way I can have that from the get-go, right? That way when I hit, 1 million or whatever it is raised, like there's not something that breaks. You know what I mean? So, but right now, as far as like channels in which I'm capital raising, right? It's like it's talking to folks at work, it's posting on social media, it's trying to be as vocal as possible about this, and going to meetups and things like that in the Bay Area as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's not just real estate meetups, right?
Yeah, I'm
That's
trying to
that's
go
tech.
to
I don't
tech
know, tech
startup.
meetups. Or, yeah, it's
Yeah, exactly. Software startup, things of that nature, where folks have the money, but necessarily the time.
yeah. And I think
Yeah.
you're in a unique position because you speak that language. You know the people there. You're not
Yeah.
somebody who just sees dollar signs at those events and then
Yeah.
comes in as a complete outsider. It's like you actually belong there and had an invitation, and
Yeah.
we're actually obligated to go, for work purposes maybe.
Yeah, in some
Um,
ways obligated to go. Yeah.
Yeah, but then you
Yeah.
can bring this different aspect of what you're doing on the side, to hopefully engage others. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it's all about, honestly, it's just fun to connect with people. I work from home, and so, I mean, I go into the office sometimes, but like connecting with folks, I think is like one of the most valuable things. Like, in going into the offices that are in different states and like sitting next to those folks and having conversations with people, that's like the most valuable thing. Whether or not they choose to invest is a totally different topic, but just like figure out what interests them and kind of just sharing my story.
Nice.
Yeah.
How would you advise somebody who is in a similar situation as you? Maybe not in tech, but they're in the legal world, or they work in finance, or maybe something completely different, but want to start chatting with coworkers, to get some momentum behind what they're doing and potentially raise capital from that group. Is there
Yeah.
something that you wish you had known, before you
I
started this, or?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good question. So I feel like you hear it all the time, and I just didn't listen to it for quite a long time. But it's just sharing your story, being honest, and getting very good at sharing your story of what's worked, what hasn't worked, and like being vulnerable in that space. I think uh one, I think it helps you get those connections faster and they go deeper much quickly. And then it opens up that door to have the conversation about capital raising. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Um, what's what's been your biggest fumble when talking to people, like if you could just go back and be like, oh man, I wish I could
Yeah.
take that moment back when I tried to pitch X, Y, and Z, what
Yeah.
would that be?
Yeah, that's a good, that's a fun one. So when I first started doing this, I didn't know how to have these conversations. I think I overthought it like to the nth degree of like, how do I talk to people, even though I know how to talk to people. What am I,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And so I was talking to somebody and I hadn't really narrowed down on the borrower that I'm raising for. And so I was kind of giving like a slurry of different options and kind of just like word bombing at this person. And they're like, "Oh, that sounds like pretty cool. Like, but what are you doing?" And like I just wasn't clear. And so I think lesson learned that like I feel like narrowing down the borrower, finding exactly who I'm raising for, and really like believing in that particular model would communicate much more loudly than just being like, here's 1,000 different things that you can do in the world of lending. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Just
Yeah.
throwing out every acronym you've ever heard of instead
Yeah.
of being like, hey, I work with this person. We're focused
Yeah.
on this asset class. These are the
Yeah.
returns.
Do
Take
you like it?
yeah,
Yeah,
like
take it or leave
take it as
it.
you will.
Yeah, yeah,
Instead,
exactly.
instead of just like pulling out every word possible and seeing like what sticks with them,
Exactly.
because they're like, okay, cool, my drink is empty. I'm gonna go and fill up.
Yeah, they're like, okay,
Sounds
thank
fun.
you for word vomiting on me. I'm gonna go.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Um, cool. Well, hey, I appreciate the time this morning. I don't want to, and I probably need to get back to work and actually talk
yeah,
to your W-2 coworkers.
yeah.
How can people get in touch with you? Are you still too shy that you don't want to put your name out there? Or
No, I'm out on Instagram these days. It's
uh,
Kasey Hilgers Invests on Instagram and just my first name, last name, Kasey Hilgers on Facebook. So people can connect with me there.
awesome. Well,
Yeah,
Casey, a pleasure. I look forward to
yeah,
chatting with you again soon. And
yeah.
yeah, have a fantastic weekend.
Thank you. Good chatting
All right.
with you.
Talk to you later.
Bye.